This is Laura Ingram. Join me every weekday morning on The Patriot. Stay tuned. Live with Lou is next. Don't touch that dial on 1410 The Patriot.
Well, good morning. Hope you're doing good out there. This is The Patriot, KMYC 1410 AM, and for the Me Too group out there, this is Lou Benninger, a white male running this operation here. We got no females out here, and we don't even think we'll take a call from a female. Only white males can call in today. And in fact, we are pre-recording this the night before Saturday. So you can call in and you can leave a complaint for the Big Kahuna, but we will have finished our work, and you can have a chat with the Wiki Man. He also is a male. I don't know, would you be considered a white male? Would you? No. What is your ethnicity anyway? Are you Native American, dude?
Part Mexican, Indian.
Okay.
Mexican and
so
German.
we got a Heinz ketchup operation over here. We got part Native American, part Mexican, and some maybe anything else. You may even have you got any white?
German.
Yep. A white person. All right, so we got a little mixture going on out here, but we definitely don't have any Me Too women. So we're celebrating that tonight. And so you listening today, we on Saturday, the 12th of May, this is new stuff. We're not doing a reheat. This isn't the worst of or the best of. This is just the of. And so thank you for listening. We'll be here for 3 hours. We're going to end at noon, and then there's a sports talk operation coming on. They're pretty good. And then at 6 o'clock later in the evening on Saturday, our man from Nevada City comes down, Zach, and he does another sports talk till you just get fed up with it. You should know everything to know about sports after you listen to all that sports talk on Saturday. So I was watching our illustrious Senator Kamala Harris berate. Isn't something? I'm wondering if she should be a man, because she sure comes off with a lot of testosterone. That old Kamala Harris, and but we know that she's female because Willie Brown used to have sex with her all the time when he's married over there in San Francisco. She was about a third his age, I think, and she wanted to be promoted, so that was a good way for her to get promoted, and Willie enjoyed that experience and appointed her to a couple different commissions. So when you think about morality, you really don't think about Kamala Harris. In fact, if you remember those two undercover journalists who uncovered the story on Planned Parenthood selling baby parts like we sell car parts, and they uncovered the fact that they were doing that and making a huge profit off of it. And so people could put in orders on different parts of a baby. Anyway, you would think that law enforcement would go after Planned Parenthood, but no. Kamala Harris, as Attorney General of the state of California at that time, went after the journalists and tried to prosecute them. Now, she doesn't have any problem with snuffing the life of an unborn, but she has a lot of problem with snuffing the life of a terrorist. So when Gina Haspel, who has been a lifelong public servant with one of the higher callings, and that's protecting the entire United States of America, that's the Central Intelligence Agency. She'd been a worker for them, and so she's been appointed or is going through the confirmation to be the head of the Central Intelligence Agency. Pretty cool, huh? You think the women would be in favor of that, but no. If she's a Republican, she is a wrong flavor. Even if she was a black Republican, she'd be really the wrong flavor. So we have Kamala Harris, who is she's kind of a light mocha black. And so, but if you just have a little bit of black in you, that means you're black, not white. And so here we go, Kamala Harris lecturing Gina Haspel on whether or not Gina Haspel thought waterboarding was moral. And I thought, well, I don't know whether we want to go down that moral road when we have such a seedy past ourselves, is just flopping over and spreading their wings for guys that try to get a move up in the political spectrum. So we're protecting terrorists and we're murdering children. The other thing is Kamala Harris. You'd think Kamala Harris, since blacks are, by percentage of the ethnic groups, are by far the highest aborted group in America, you would think Kamala Harris and guys like Barack Obama would be more sensitive to Planned Parenthood targeting black babies in the womb, but they aren't. Now, that just shows you it's not about ethnicity. It's about power control, control of the structures of government, and all that kind of stuff. Now, the same thing goes with, let's see, with Barack Obama. Do you remember? You know, it's interesting. When I listen to the media, I can't listen very long because I don't know whether it's just my age or what. It just sends me totally over the edge. So not only do people lie and are hypocrites, you can't trust anything to say. I mean, it's just a total propaganda blitz in America today. So we have, under Barack Obama, we have a guy named, a college student named Otto Warmbier. Warm with B-I-E-R on the end. I think Otto is a Jewish guy. Now, he is on a student trip, college student trip, to North Korea. And while over there, before he leaves, he takes, I can't remember whether it was a poster or a banner, small banner, as a souvenir, and he's going to take it back because souvenir from North Korea. And he is seen on a camera, and they arrest him, and they put him in jail, and they hold him there. Barack Obama cannot, it's interesting how, did you remember how when President Trump took power, and then they started getting into this thing where the rocket man was shooting rockets all over there, and President Trump was responding, and this and that and this and that, and the liberals saying, well, he's too stupid. You know, remember Bush was all the Republicans are too stupid to do anything. And so that's the mantra. And so he's too stupid. He's going to get us into Third World War. And so he ends up confronting Rocket Man. But Obama didn't do jack to help Otto Warmbier. And so finally, and I don't know why the North Koreans sent him home beat to a pulp, but basically they said he was in a vegetable state. His brain was done. They beat him so badly, and he died soon after he got home. You remember that? So the press didn't say much about that, right? But now we have the president of Korea, North Korea, freeing 3 American Koreans. 2 of them, all 3 of them are Christians, and one or two of them were teaching in the university over there, and one was missionary type guy. And so 3 of those guys, and they mock Trump bringing them back like it's a staged event, that it really wasn't any of his doing, that he just sold America down the drain. Now, if he had still been firing rockets over Japan, Jong-un Kim, it's actually the way we should say it. If we said, like, my name's Lou Benninger, we'd say Jong-un Kim. Kim's his last name, but the news people are too stupid to even figure that out, that Kim is the last name, but they say it first over there. So it's interesting they just made fun of the whole thing and mocked these 3 guys that are being saved. Now, I wonder if there's some racism involved in this. I don't know. Or because they're Christian people, right? Do you remember the big celebration they had for Bo Bergdahl, who was a traitor? And I don't know how many, was it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 infantrymen or military people were killed searching for Bo Bergdahl. Remember that? But Bo Bergdahl was brought to the United States. Remember, his parents were brought up. His dad gave a little shout out to Muhammad and all of them. You know, his dad's a little hippie guy, a little pussy, and gave a little shout out to Islam. And Bo, you know, they wanted to say, hey, remember Susan Rice said he served? Bo Bergdahl served with honor and dignity. What a jerk that lady is. So this the double or triple or quadruple standard that the press is treating Trump with. The fact is they just are indignant of the fact that the guy that they totally disrespect and trash every single day, 24 hours a day, goes over and is getting a connection with Mr. Kim. And they don't like it. And here, Pompeo goes over there. Remember how the press, they hated Tillerson, right? But then Tillerson, once he gets canned, then they love Tillerson. And they hate Pompeo. They just switch horses. So, anyway. Well, that is, it's just the ongoing drama of the presidency, and I'm loving every minute of it. I hate the fact that the press is trying to overthrow the country, and this is the first time we've ever had a former president trying to overthrow the next president, and nobody seems to care. I think the Obama needs to be arrested and taken out and put in a Guantanamo. And it's like that. Remember that President Kennedy made that statement once, ask not what your country can do for you. I saw this picture of Kennedy the other day. It said, ask not what your country to do for you and why Hillary isn't in prison. That's the second half of it. Ask not what your country can do for you and why Hillary isn't in prison. I think that Guantanamo just should be upgraded a little bit, put Obama out there and put the Clintons with him. And all the other people, Eric Holder, right? Criminal. They're all criminals. So, well, anyway, I was shocked this week. But, oh, by the way, let me tell you a couple things I forgot to say. The phone number here is 530-742-5555. Once again, 530-742-5555. But we are not in the studio. We're pre-recording several hours before. So, because we couldn't be here on Saturday, but you can still call and leave a message. It probably won't get to me, so if you want to talk to the boss, the big kahuna, just address him as such. If you're having trouble hearing us, if you're out on a fringe area and you have problems with reception, you can go on your computer and go to kmycradio.com, kmycradio.com, and then click on the Listen Live button, and we just hope that the live stream will be working in the morning. If all else fails, and you think, oh, I can't hear it very well, or the lawnmower's running, it's interfering, and you can go later to One Eye Blind Media on YouTube. 4 separate words, 1 space in between, One Eye Blind Media, and click on Live with Lou and pick out your show you want to listen to. You can listen to it anytime you want, loud and clear, because we record it for them. I think that covers all the details. Okay. I wanted to talk for a minute about the casino. Butte County, you guys up in Butte County, you got a couple casinos to the south of us. Placer County, you got a casino or so. Maybe you got 2. I think of Thunder Valley down there off across from Lincoln. So then Colusa, I know some people listen in Colusa, and they have a Colusa casino. So we got casinos. So back in the day, the supervisors at the time did a stealth. People always talk about their constituents. We're serving our constituents. But anytime they want to do something that they want to do, the supervisors, and they don't want you to do, they screw you, and they do a stealth move, and they don't really let people in on what they're doing. And so that's how the casino started. And 3 people, in fact, they were arguing it back and forth on getting a memorandum of understanding to let this Butte tribal group to come down here and have a reservation down here on 40 acres off out there in South Yuba County. And they desperately pushed through a vote because Dan Logue was coming on the Board of Supervisors, and they knew that Dan Logue would vote against it, and they wouldn't have the vote. So they pushed through a vote before Alamaro had to leave, and they voted it through 3-2. And so then they had such a blowback from the community, they had an advisory vote, which it was totally hypocritical that they did that. They paid for the advisory vote. I think it was called Measure G back then, and it lost. And the Chicago financier spent $500,000 to get a positive vote after he already had the 3 votes on the Board of Supervisors, and they lost. I think it was 51.9% against the casino, and so they lost. And then 2 times since then, Yuba County residents have voted on a statewide proposition to stop off-reservation casinos, or what they call casino or reservation shopping. So 3 different times, Yuba County residents have voted that they did not want a casino of this type here, but the supervisors continue to stick it down our throat. And the disappointing thing is that now we got Leahy and Lofton voting for this casino. I'm missing one. Andy Vasquez voted against this. I'm going to talk about this fire department thing in a minute. But now we thought we had got rid of like Mary Jane Griego and John Nicoletti, who were sellouts to the casino. But anyway, here's what happened. So the casino signed an MOU that they haven't followed through on, a memorandum of understanding, because they don't have to pay taxes. They don't have to get building permits. They don't have to do any kind of thing unless they decide, I think I want to. But they don't have to. They're a sovereign nation. It's like trying to get Mexico to do something because we want them to. And if Mexico was in the center of California. So anyway, part of the memorandum of understanding is that they had to make a deal with the Yuba County Sheriff's Department to pay them a bunch of money, which they never have done. They're supposed to pay them over, I think, about $600,000 already, but they never have done it. And then they were supposed to establish a relationship with the fire authority, and they're in the Wheatland Fire District. That's the closest district, the closest stations to where the casino would be built is the Wheatland Fire District, not Linda, not Olivehurst, not Marysville. And so the natural place for them to go is the Wheatland Fire District. But the other day, this last Tuesday, at the board meeting, without much notice, I'm sure they posted it on the agenda, but that's it. Gary Bradford, who represents the Linda Fire District area, made a motion to approve or bless the Olivehurst Public Utility District and the fire department. The fire department of Olivehurst runs under the Olivehurst Public Utility District. He made a motion to okay the tribe working with Olivehurst Fire versus Wheatland Fire. Now, I want you to think about it. If you have a heart attack in the city of Marysville, the city of Marysville, I don't even think it's a half a mile across, right? So if you have a heart attack in the city of Marysville, you're going to get a pretty fast response time. Now, what if the city of Marysville decided to contract with the city of Yuba City for fire, and they had to come from Forbes at Shasta over in Yuba City, right? Instead of dealing with, would you rather have a station like where the station's just across the lake from where I live? If I was going to have a heart attack, even though I like the Yuba City firefighters, would I rather have Yuba City respond or Marysville Fire or Yuba City, where it's like going to take them 4 times as long to get through all the traffic and come over that bridge? Well, obviously, you want the closest station, right, if you have an emergency or your house is on fire. But the way this worked is that Mary Jane Griego got canned off the Board of Supervisors by her folks in her district, and then she turned right around and got on the Olivehurst Public Utility Board and pulled this little switcheroo with the casino. And it wasn't too long ago when they fired their chief that they were talking to merging with Linda and having the Linda chief take over, but now they just pulled this fast one, and Gary Bradford, who should have been in favor of going to Wheatland. The interesting thing is Bradford used to be on the Oliver's Public Utility Board. So instead of him doing something to benefit his own fire department in his own district, he actually he threw his own fire department under the fire truck. Now that didn't make sense, does it? And somehow they're going to divide up all the money. Now I want you to think about it. Now, supposedly Bradford's telling everybody that the tribe said they would only deal with Oliver's Public Utility District, and if they didn't get them to do it, then they were going to go with a private entity. Well, listen, all they're sanctioned, all they're okayed for right now is a card room. I'd have told them to go to hell. If I was on the board of supervisors, I'd told them, you either do Wheatland or go to hell, get your own private deal, and build it right out there next to that little private card room tent. We'll be right back. We got 2.5 hours to go. We got more to talk about here about this Bradford fellow, and he like got a flat spot on the skull. All right, we're back. This is our second little section here, half hour, and then we'll take another break. But let me make a couple comments about the two clips. They just didn't believe that black people were smart enough to be able to figure out how to get to the polls, how to get to the DMV, how to get an ID, that most black people were ID deficient. In other words, they just walked around and tried to show who they were by showing a PG&E bill or something. They were just stupid. And all the people you just heard there being interviewed in Harlem and in Berkeley, the white people, did you hear those white college students? They were racist. They were describing a slowly developed or a deficient race of people called blacks that just didn't come along as fast as others, like Asians and whites. Well, now we got Gary Bradford. I heard the other day that Supervisor Bradford, when Supervisor Bradford and Lofton and Leahy all voted, they would rather go with a fire department that's 2 or 3 times as far from their little card room as Wheatland. They think that's going to be good for the customers. That's just plain stupid to me. Now, you know what one of the reasons was? They said that they didn't want the public to come and protest at the supervisor's chambers, is that they didn't want to upset the Indians. I think they'd go out and get some alcohol, get drunk, go on the warpath. They didn't want to make it hard on the Indians. Probably Mary Jane Griego told them, hey, let's take it really easy on the Indians. They have a complex. Some of their people got run around hundreds of years ago. So just let them do whatever they want, even if it's a stupid idea. If you know anything about Yuba County, the worst run fire department has been the one run by OPUD. And what I mean by that is it isn't the firefighters aren't great guys or gals. It's OPUD can't find its butt with both hands. And they don't know, who is over a fire department. The board is huge. Linda is run by its own fire board. Marysville is run by the city council. Yuba City is run by the city council. Olivehurst, Wheatland has a Wheatland Fire Authority. They have a board over them. But Olivehurst has the Olivehurst Public Utility District. It's a screwy operation. Bradford used to be on that board. In fact, somebody told me that he may have worked for them at one time. But Bradford just came and became a supervisor and is pro-casino. And it looks like Leahy's pro-casino and Lofton's pro-casino. And here's what was told to me by another supervisor I was talking to. He said, Lou, they think it's going to bring jobs, and they want jobs at any cost. Here's what that means. Here's what that translates, if you never heard this before. When you look up, just go Google it and look up casino research or casino studies and the impact on a community. Like you can look at crime stats before and then crime stats after. And you can look at how much the community earns versus how much it costs the community. You say, well, how could it cost the community? You mean people losing money? No. In addition to that, like bankruptcies, people getting evicted from houses, people embezzling money to pay gambling debts and court costs, and having to manage the crime where there's drug dealing, like in the Butte County casinos are drug dealing. So the studies show that for every $1 that the community would bring in on a casino, there's $3 spent out in expenses. But you just don't see it because it's just in the budgets of all these entities like courts, DA, law enforcement, et cetera, et cetera. So this whole thing about, oh, this is a big boon to the community having a casino is a lie. It's just a straight up lie. It's never been able to be supportive. It's just people saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over again until they beat it in your head till other people repeat it and everybody thinks it's true. And it's just a crock of crap. It's kind of like more suicides happening in the holidays. It's just a lie. It isn't true. Just people say it a lot enough, and you think, oh yeah, it's a tough time of year. People are going to kill themselves because it's Christmas time. So what's happening here is that Mr. Bradford pulled a little shenanigan, and the supervisors, and it's just typical of the entire illegal and lack of integrity and dishonesty that this whole casino fiasco has been laden with from the very beginning. From the very beginning. And it's continuing. They say, oh, yeah, we've complied with everything. They didn't comply with Jack. In fact, if it wasn't for Andy Vasquez and the previous representative from out there in Wheatland and Plumas Lake, which was Roger Abbey, they probably would have never even paid up their first payment to Yuba County, which is over $600,000 that they agreed to back in about 2001. And so they should have already paid the sheriff's department nearly $600,000 as well, but they haven't paid them a nickel. So what I'm told here is that they're going to break ground on June 4, but they've already broken ground once. They're going to break ground again, but they're going to have a fire department is it twice, 3 times? I'm going to have to talk to the different fire departments out there and see how extra far it is to get service from Olivehurst. So, to me, the Wheatland Fire Department's getting screwed, and the city of Wheatland's getting screwed in the deal. And with all these mutual aid agreements, I don't know how they're going to. I don't know what they're going to do. It's a screwed up mess. And people ought to complain about it. Usually they go through a thing called LAFCO, which is an oversight group that has members from various communities or various agencies that kind of review plans and see if they're logical, if they're truly beneficial. And they kind of put their good housekeeping stamp of approval. These guys just skipped that. They just rolled them in. They snuck this on the agenda and voted on it. Now, it's interesting to me that Randy Fletcher, I sat with Randy, I was on the school board with Randy for years, and it's interesting that Randy chose this meeting to miss. Maybe he had good cause. Maybe he had a death in the family. Maybe he's sick. But I thought being that he's running for election, maybe he didn't want to be voting on this right now. Just a coinkydink, as they call it, a coinkydink. Well, the other thing that I noticed when I was putting together, I put together a thing called Lou's Picks. I don't put it out as a voter plank. Like right now in the mail, I'm getting just chock full my mailbox of voter planks. That's where you pay somebody to say you're a great guy and they list a bunch of candidates. You pay them to get on that thing. Well, I don't put out a voter plank. I just put Lou's Picks together because I got tired of answering the phone and arguing with people on how I was going to vote. And then they said, well, why didn't you? What about this guy? What about that guy? Well, what about this? Well, what about that? I said, I don't have time to do what about. If you want to know what I'm voting, I'll give you a list. I don't need your phone calls. If you don't like it or you want to do what about, you talk to yourself in the mirror, then you vote. So when I was putting my loose picks together, some things I'm putting on there, like I'm in Yuba County, and the other day I said, well, I voted for this person last time. And they said, well, Lou, how'd you do that in Sutter County if you were in Yuba County? I said, oh, well, I didn't really vote. I said, that's on loose picks. So I picked the candidates I would vote for if I was in Sutter County. So I have Yuba and Sutter. But down here in Yuba County, Wheatland, or in Plumas Lake area and Wheatland, they want to put a measure on the ballot, or it's on the ballot, called Measure G, to raise $20 million. Now, if you notice, if you're from Yuba County, and probably from all the counties I'm talking to about portions of 5-6 different counties. If you look on your property tax bill, you have your property taxes, and then you have these add-ons that are in there. Like, for instance, if you're in the Yuba College District, I'm paying a bunch of bonds for the Yuba College. And I'm also paying bonds. I'm in Marysville Unified School District. I'm paying bonds for the Marysville Unified School District. So I was just talking to a resident out in Plumas Lake, and she said she's paying on about 5 bonds. Well, that would make sense. She's probably paying 2 or 3 for Yuba College, and then she's paying on some down in Plumas Lake bonds, right? So they want to add a school down there in Plumas Lake. They got 3 schools down there. So Bradford, the same guy that's pushing this casino to use the wrong fire department, and it's going to be a longer run to get there if you have a heart attack. And, you know, they have lots of heart attacks as casinos because it's pressure, and you got a lot of old farts out there dinking around. And so they have a lot of health issues at casinos. It's just part of the territory, right? The older you get, the more issues you have. And so Bradford not only has got a flat spot on his brain on that, but he's pushing this Measure G. So my friend told me, she asked him, she says, do you know what the student population is out here? He said, no, I have no idea. And she said, do you know what the capacity is on these schools? He said, no, I don't have any idea. So in other words, what she was getting at was that there could be a lot of empty seats out there where you can put butts in them, that you're paying for those seats to just sit there. Empty seats, you're cleaning them, you're dusting them. And now you want to build more brick and mortar out there, and you still have hundreds of seats of capacity that nobody's there because those subdivisions haven't built out. And so the other place that you can adjust in a school system, because I've been on a school board, is if a school gets tight with pupils, and it's a real popular school, and it's filling up, like Mary Covalad is full. In fact, I just heard yesterday that Mary Covalad won a state award of excellence. So Mary Covalad School in downtown Marysville is full of kids. They don't have any vacancies usually, unless some kid gets up and moves out. But Doug Eschman, who's the principal, told me that half the kids that go to Mary Covalad don't even live in their district, in their area. They come over and they get inter-district or inter-district transfers and come over there because the school's high quality. So the first thing you do when there is a shortage of seats is you don't allow people to transfer in, and then you can get more mileage out of your buildings. That's an efficient way to operate. In other words, you quit taxing people and you fill your buildings with people that live there. In other words, you don't allow people from Marysville to go down to Plumas Lake and go to school, right? Or Beale to come over to Plumas Lake, or whatever, or Wheatland to come over to Plumas Lake. I know those are the first people you say, hey, we got to take care of our own first. If we have extra spots, we'll let you in. So if you got hundreds of seats that aren't full of kids, why would you build more schools? Why would you tax the people? Now, the person, I was just shocked. I said, hey, what are you paying out there? She said, well, Lou, out here we got to pay our regular property taxes. We're paying all these bonds, and we got this Mello-Roos development costs. She said her tax bill's $3,500 a year. if I was a little older, I might have wet my pants, but I still have too much self-control. $3,500. And she said, Lou, my house is not that big. So not only is Bradford clueless about the capacity of the schools he's pushing a bond for, or the population of the kids, or how much unused capacity. In other words, if you knew jack diddly about business and you had a factory and the factory was capable of running and producing 1,000 widgets an hour, and you were only putting out 700 widgets an hour, you don't need to build another factory. You need to get more widget orders, right? And you need to, if you're not operating your factory at capacity at 1,000 widgets an hour, then why build another factory next door, right? You're just wasting all that energy and money by not running efficiently. So it seems to me that you ought to fill up the schools with Plumas Slate people only, eliminate all your transfers, then go after your bond if you wish to. But Mr. Bradford doesn't know his butt from a hole in the ground on education and is backing this Proposition G, which makes no sense at all, and the public doesn't know what they're even voting on, except they're going to get screwed for another 20, 30 years. Frankly, I'm sick of paying school bonds for 20, 30. The school bonds are going to go on long past I'm dead. They're going to be liens against my property. And they're at a very high rate of interest. And the other thing is that the schools, when they're built with prevailing wage. That means they don't go out and look for the best price. They don't just establish a building plan that's a certain standard and everybody's got to build to that standard. They not only do that, but then they tell you how much you have to pay the workers, which is a total ripoff to the taxpayers. My friends that are in construction, that build houses, build commercial buildings, say, Lou, the price of a school or any government building is a third to a half more than it needs to be. Built to the same exact standards that the state wants, just because you got to pay prevailing wage. It's a total ripoff to the public. I wouldn't build another school until we could get that prevailing wage lifted. In fact, when Rick Teagarden was superintendent of Yuba County Office of Education, we worked around that, and we did our own contracting with our own builders to get around all that baloney when we developed our charter school. Now, I think it's sad. I work with all these fire departments. I work with Olivehurst Fire, and if this casino was in Olivehurst District, and some guy was jacking Olivehurst around to give it to Wheatland Fire Department, I'd feel the same way. It has nothing to do with my preference on fire departments. If the casino was supposed to be in Marysville and they wanted Linda Fire Department to get all the action, I don't think that's right either. That isn't right. What they did, they're ripping off the Wheatland District, and I'm telling you, the people that voted for Mr. Bradford, that guy's lost his mind out there on two counts, one on the casino and one on the Measure G, to want to tax you for another $20 million loan, which is not needed. It's just simply not needed. Now, somebody told me this week, some of my friends are telling me, they said, Lou, people saying the stupidest things about the election. They'll say this person was at a discussion on who you're going to vote for a particular office, and they said, well, you're going to vote for this person. They said, why? Well, I really like his signs. It's amazing. I want you to think about that for a minute. That person should be put in some sort of a facility and their vote taken from them. You know, there was merit when the colonies first started in America where they only let white guys vote that own property, right? Why would they do that? Because you might think that I'm speaking racist. I'm not. It's those guys are the ones that paid all the bills. So the guys, they didn't allow people to vote that were stupid, that didn't have any skin in the game. It was the white guys who owned property that were paying for all the bills, all the roads to be built. So those are the voters. But I'm telling you, if you're going to vote because you like the sign or you just like the person, you don't know whether they can do the job or not. If you're not going to do the research, please, people, don't vote for a sign or a slogan. Figure out what the person's made of. We're talking about voting for the sheriff of all people. We're voting for sheriffs on both sides of the river. It's a huge job. It's a very intense job. I think we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come right back for 2 more hours. All right, this is KMYC, where white males prevail, and we celebrate White History Month. And if you want to be happy for the rest of your life, make an ugly woman your wife. That's what that says. That's what Jimmy Soul said back in the day. Well, we were talking about the smoke and mirrors, shuck and jive of the Maidu Indian tribe that came down here, and they got the supervisors by the short hairs. And these supervisors don't know jack diddly about what a casino does to the community, that it rips it off, right? It's kind of like eating sugar, right? You like to eat candy bars. You think, oh, I love the flavor of those candy bars. But a good nutritionist will tell you that is robbing. Well, let me do another one. Maybe you love to snort methamphetamines or shoot it. And man, it makes you feel good, and you look in the mirror and you're down to about 90 pounds from 150, and you got sores on your face, and you think, man, that is one buff-looking dude right there in the mirror. You think you're looking fine, you're feeling fine, you feel like you could handle a calculus problem or jump a tall building in a single leap. But all the while, that drug is killing you, just sucking the life. That's what a casino does. It's like all the fancy lights and the meals. Oh, that prime rib's so good. And all the while, your tax dollars are subsidizing that old casino out there. So our supervisors, we thought we got rid of all those people that can't add up 2 and 2. They keep getting 3 2/3 or something. We thought we got rid of those guys, and now we got a fresh batch of Lulus. Man, they got a short in the brain. They just got a flat spot. When you talk to them, they sound all right. It's kind of like when sometimes I buy a little bag of oranges at the store, and I think they look good. I said, man, I can't wait to get them home. Get them home and open them, and they got a bad one in there, and got all white on it and everything. Darn, well, it cost me more than I thought. Got a couple bad ones in there. They snuck those bad ones in there. And that's what happened on these supervisors. So I don't know what happened to Randy Fletcher, whether he just laid low and, kind of like when you didn't want to go to school one day, you think, man, there's a test. I'm not going to go to school. I think I'm feeling a little scratchy throat. I think I got a hit. Mom, I think I got an earache. I just need to skip today. Mom didn't know there's going to be a test. So here we go. We got now a screwy thing going with the fire department. Wheatland Fire Department got jerked around. And the people, if you go out there to play cards or make a little money, try to wager a little money, make a little money out that card room out there, you have a little heart attack. Those old boys and girls from Oliver's Fire are going to have to get on their engine and ride out there. Going to take them 2-3 times as long as Wheatland Fire. But that's okay, because Gary Bradford didn't want to offend, or my friend Dennis would say defend. He gets offended and defend. He said, they're going to get defended. Don't want to defend the Indians. They're liable to get all freaky and everything. Well, what are you going to do about the people in Wheatland? Some people, I said, why don't you just recall that Gary Bradford? You don't like him. Just get rid of him. You can get rid of him. You can just recall somebody. If he changes his hair color, you can get rid of him. Well, that's the way that is. Man, I was looking, here's the oddest thing. I already voted. I got my absentee ballot the other day, and because I already did lose picks, so I did all the studying, and then I educated myself, and I told myself how to vote. So anyway, after I already voted, then I got the California statewide direct primary election packet in the mail. all this information about all these guys and gals that are running for office. I thought, oh, well, this is really interesting. I'd like to have read this if it had come on time. If I'd have got it like 2 weeks before I got my absentee ballot, it would have really been helpful. So I don't know, this thing is, how many pages is it? Almost 100 pages long? And you don't have to read the whole thing. You can just pick out what you're supposed to vote on. Like they even include people from Southern California in this. And so I opened it and I was flipping through it. And I ran across the Attorney General race and the folks running for Attorney General. And I thought, oh, there's Xavier Becerra. He is our current Attorney General. And I thought, I'm going to read what his pitch is. You know, you can pay to have your pitch in here, like who you are, what you stand for, right? And I'm telling you, I was shocked. I knew this guy was a radical leftist dude, but let me just read it to you because the amazing thing, I guess I'm the odd man out here because a lot of people must believe this because he said it before God and everybody, right? He probably sent God a copy. As your Attorney General and Chief Law Enforcement Officer, I'm fighting and winning for California and your values. For California and your values. I think, okay, he's going to tell me what my values are right here. I'm taking on the Trump administration, he says. Comma. Sex traffickers. That's okay. The NRA. California. My tax dollars are going to take on the NRA. That's the Second Amendment right to have a gun. That's National Rifle Association for you that aren't familiar with that. Comma, big oil. I thought, Becerra drives a car. Brown runs around in a car. Everybody down there is driving around them big SUVs while they tell us we got to buy an electric car. Big oil. Like, they don't want to drill oil. We got more oil underneath us in the Middle East. They want us to bring oil in from somebody else. Then they don't even want to use it on bring it in on trains. These people are stupid. They don't want to build a pipeline. They don't want to have a train, but they keep running around in fossil fuel cars. And big banks. He doesn't like banks. Now, I like banks. I don't like anybody that's just dishonest, but I've met dishonest people in all walks of life. I know pastors that are dishonest. I know government people that are dishonest. I know politicians that are dishonest. I know big business people would shock you that are dishonest in our area. Yuba City, Marysville, big car dealers, dishonest. And he says big banks. In other words, just if you're a big bank, he's coming after you. What'd you do? You were big. I'm big. He says, I'm prosecuting violent street gangs. Now, he's a liar because he didn't go after that guy that killed that gal in San Francisco. He says, because listen to this, I'm going after violent street gangs, polluters. Oh, that's a bit, I really need you to come after a polluter. And predatory for profit colleges. What's wrong with a profit college? You talk about predators, colleges, that's these state colleges that rip you off. And then they spend all day trashing Donald Trump or Sarah Palin or some other conservative, and they call that education. Or they talk about you ought to be a transgender. Or I think you're a homosexual. That's education. That's not education. That's a predator. That's a predator college. So in other words, any college, what he's saying here, any college that is not a government school is a predator, and he's going to try to take them down. That are stealing from our students. You know something? The worst thing you can do from a student is steal their mind by propagandizing them and teaching them what the proper way to think is. Not how to think, but what they are supposed to think. As a lifelong advocate, he says, for single-payer health care. Oh, that's all we need, buddy. We just need... Did you see the Facebook post? What's going on at DMV? Everybody's standing in line all the way down the street. Are they selling popcorn or what's the big deal? Are we supposed to sign up for something? I couldn't. All the DMVs, people are like saying they're lined all the way out the parking lot. And I thought, we want the people that can't even keep the registrations of cars straight to take care of our health. Single payer health. the attorney general even involved in it. He said, I sued Trump and won to stop him from gutting our air quality. Did you notice your air quality gutted? The only thing I used to gut is a duck. Our air quality protections and to block his efforts to restrict women's access to birth control. Now, I want you to think about this. This guy is such a corrupt person. He says, Trump was going to block or restrict women's access to birth control. I could go over to right at Walgreens and walk across the street buy birth control. What he's saying here is people have a right to free birth control, right? You have a right to kill a kid for free. Do you know most birth control actually kills the kid? It's got a chemical in there that if it doesn't catch the sperm from connecting with the ovary, if it does, it'll go ahead and kill the whole thing. He says, I fought and won to protect the Dreamers. Do you know some of the Dreamers are MS-13 gang members? And above, he said he's prosecuting the gang members, but now we're protecting them down here with the Dreamers. Immigrants brought to the U.S. as young children. Now if you were raised by a crank addict prostitute mother, nobody cut you any deal. If you were raised or weren't ever tended to by a dad that was up at Pelican Bay for your whole life and never even got any help from him, do you think you got any special deal in the school system or anywhere else? Hell no. But if you were brought here by a parent and you were a youngster, somehow you get everything free for the rest of your life. Now, I want you to think about that, because nobody got to pick their parents. It was a lottery, and some won big and some didn't win so big. But your parents, if they were together and they brought you into this country, supposedly you win the American lottery. You get your butt kissed. Yuba College will give you free DACA pay of $500. They will pay for your books. They will give you a free education because somebody decided to cross a border illegally with your little butt. That's totally absurd. This guy I think he's got syphilis. They told me at Yuba County Health Department that if you had sex and you got syphilis, you didn't take care of it, affect your brain. That's what I think happened to a lot of these Democrats. They've been promiscuous like Kamala Harris, screwing her way to the top. He says, I fight these battles for Californians as a son of immigrants, the first in my family to graduate from university. I wonder if I paid your way to do that, dude. Because all Californians deserve a chance to succeed. What he means by Californians there is whether or not you're a citizen or not. It's just if you're living in this part of the country. Anyway, he says in here, everybody has a right. Oh, yeah, this is good. I went to court to defend Obamacare because I believe health care is a right. You know something, people? Health care is not a damn right. It's not a right. If you want to take care and you want to go get some health care, it's like I could say a gallon of milk is a right. That's ridiculous. It's a product. If you want to go buy the product, you buy the product, right? You have a right to go get a job. Right? It's not a right to have somebody provide health care for you. Health care is there if you want it. This guy. So then he restates it. I've been fighting for California values. It's not, Californians don't value destroying big oil. This is socialism. What do you want to confiscate? All the oil refineries and the oil rigs? He said, I will never, with emphasis, he's got it in italics, never back down, whether it's big oil, the NRA, or the Trump administration. Some people talk about what they do, but as Attorney General, I'm doing it. Oh, this guy's all bad till he gets out till he sends his little bodyguard home and somebody just smacks him and takes his glasses off his forehead. Get all wimpy on me. You need to pay attention to who you're voting for, people. I've been in a back and forth with a lady that used to go to our church. She's up there in Redding, and she can't sort out between Cox and Allen. I said, it ain't between Cox and Allen. It's whether or not you want Cox or whether you want that pervert Gavin Newsom. That's who it's between. If you want to split hairs and have a big pissing contest between and get Travis Allen and split hairs with those two and end up via Ragosa and Gavin Newsom running in the final, two Democrats, you're going to get Gavin Newsom. And all you did is think, oh, well, you didn't really know what to do. And I really liked him. I really liked him. And you just screwed the whole election. So there's that. Oh, did you see where John, I am so sick of John McCain. I don't care whether he was a POW. I went in the Hanoi Hilton where he was. I know exactly. I went inside the place. I don't care whether he was up there. I don't care whether he's got cancer. So what? Everybody's got cancer. I got all kinds of people dying from cancer in my family. So have some cancer. Everybody's going to die sometime. How's about that? Right? That's what the Bible says. I didn't come up with that. It said it's appointed for everyone to die and then the judgment. So John is getting really close to the judgment. He's closer than I am. So here's the deal. He says he regrets choosing Sarah Palin as a vice president. I thought, hell, she got more votes than he did. His candidate, that guy was a total screw up. His ticket improved with Palin. I thought, you know something, this guy's, well, he is out of his mind. He has brain cancer, right? It's just like, can't anybody like put a lid on that thing over there at the McCain household? Like give him some morphine, help the dude out, give him a solid. I just think that what he said about Sarah Palin, I'm telling you, all the people I know, the only reason they voted for McCain was because of Palin. There's no question about it. I just thought the guys, you know something? John McCain was totally corrupt from the time he started out in the Navy. He was a kiss ass. He crashed plane after plane. I'm not talking about he got shot down. He crashed them. You know something? The military now, they tell me in the Air Force, if you go down in a plane, that's the last time you're going to fly. You're out. Yeah, they're like multi-bazillion-dollar planes. They say, we don't know what, you're done. We don't, if you get shot down, that's one thing. But you're flying along and you have a bad day, that's the last bad day you're going to have in a plane. And so this guy, when you read, I just read a 2008 long article about his life. That guy was he was just a pagan, man. He would screw anything that had a skirt on it. He was unfaithful to his wife. She waited for him to get out of the prison in Hanoi and had a bad accident in 1968 or 69, destroyed her legs, damaged she's a really beautiful woman, really sharp lady, bright lady. He married her and went off to war and was screwing everything he could find all the way along the way, any country he went to. She waited for him, took care of his kids, came home, and took off with a USC cheerleader whose dad owned Budweiser, and now he's worth $100 million because of her, and totally left his crippled previous wife while she waited for his crippled ass and ripped her off. That's the kind of guy. That guy's a total loser. A total loser, John McCain. He's a liar. He's unfaithful. It's like, he's no hero. What? Because he got shot down? He was always going down. He was going down one plane after another. They finally the only reason he even stayed in the Navy was because his father and grandfather were big shots all the way up and ran the whole operation. He kissed it all the way up. He couldn't even qualify to get into some of the schools. He had such lousy grades. Unbelievable guy. I'm not going to miss him. There you have it. I just be honest with you. I'm not going to miss him. The guy is not, I'm just going to leave it at that. It's just a really sad situation. They say If you can't say something good about somebody, don't say something at all. I don't believe in that. I say, hey, call it as it is. We're going to take a break here in a second. So let me just remind you, if you forgot or you're under the influence of heroin, they see a lot of people using heroin nowadays in Yuba County. This is 1410 AM, The Patriot, and we're all about White History Month. And we'll be right back. All right, this is The Patriot, and this is white adult male Lou Benninger. For all you Me Too people out there. And I agree with Donald Trump. He says, never have gotten over the fact that Obama was able to send $1.7 billion in cash. Did you see those pallets of cash when they did that? In that big, was it in a big C-5 transport plane or something? Pallets of cash. U.S. cash. $1.7 billion in cash to Iran. Just gave it to him. Just because he was kissing up to him to do this nuke deal that we just... And did you realize... Well, let me finish this tweet. Cash to Iran, and nobody, Trump says, nobody in Congress, nobody in the FBI, nobody in the Justice Department called for investigation. Did you ever... I was talking to a guy last night after the tip meeting from the water treatment plant. He's a worker out there, and the guy's really smart and really a great guy and a conservative. And he just said, Lou, he said the thing that I've thought so many times. He said, when Obama was in power, there was, Trump's doing all the stuff that the average American just thought, why don't they do this? Well, why don't they do that? Well, why don't they do this? Like I used to think, why don't they fight ISIS and beat them, right? Well, why don't they address why don't they stop people coming across the border? Why don't they do this? Trump's doing that, right? So he says, why didn't the Congress do something? Why didn't FBI do? And now we got everybody after Trump, and he's not doing anything wrong. He's just doing something good. Lower the black unemployment rate. Damn you. Lower the Hispanic unemployment rate. Damn you. Stock price goes through the roof. Damn you. Doesn't endorse Planned Parenthood. Damn you. Peace in North Korea, South Korea. Damn you. Brings 3 guys home that could have ended up like Otto Warmbier. Damn you. We hate you. You're disgusting. We want to focus on a pornography prostitute, right? Instead of helping people. Putting all, do you remember how many millions of people got $1,000 bonuses? Do you remember that after the tax cut? And the Democrats that are worth millions of dollars individually mocked it, laughed at them. And I don't know anybody in my circle of friends that would, if you told them they were going to get $1,000, they would be thrilled, totally thrilled, and could really use the money not to go buy something stupid, like a car or fancy something or toy, but they'd buy clothes for their kids or take their kids to a special place or whatever. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. People just, I understand as a citizen, what can you do? Obama tells, they didn't ask anybody's permission. It's like Gary Bradford didn't ask your permission when he gave away the fire department to Olivers versus where it should have been Wheatland. He didn't ask your input on supporting a school bond that's not needed. Just like Obama. He just, all of a sudden, he said, load up $1.7 billion and fly it over there, dude. Nobody dared come against him. Isn't that something? Pretty amazing. Well, let's see how many. Oh, we're in good shape. Well, last week I began to talk about corruption in the electoral process, and I told a story about James Gallagher, who used to be. He first started out as a supervisor in Sutter County, then he moved up to be an assemblyman, and he still serves there now. And so I started a story where James Gallagher had decided, along with people like Al Monton and some political backers around here, you know, it's one thing if people want to run for office. I guess I'm kind of idealistic. You know, people want to run for office. They tell their story about, or maybe you know their background. They want to run for office. They tell you how they're going to be. And you either vote for them or don't vote for them. And to me, some of the people, like I got PO'd because my dad was a Republican, my mom was a Democrat. So to me, it didn't make any, like nobody even, on a local race, they just voted for, because they knew everybody in town. It was a small town, Marysville. So they just voted for the person they thought could do the job the best. It didn't matter what flavor they were, political flavor. So I always felt local races were nonpartisan. But I noticed that even Democrats and Republicans now are saying you can't speak at our event or you can't be a part of us or we're going to endorse local people only if they're of our same flavor. It has nothing to do with whether they're the best person. So a Republican would endorse a corrupt person, a liar and a cheat Republican over an honest Democrat, a hardworking, smart Democrat, or vice versa. That's nonsense at a local level. I just think it's crazy. They've made all these things partisan issues. And so I've never been interested in these people that are trying to create a power struggle. And so what James Gallagher has done, along with Jim Nielsen and Doug LaMalfa and Al Monton and different people in the Central Valley, is they've tried to control who's running for office, manage it, control it. Just like if you decide to run for office, you got to go ask their permission or get their blessing, like the mafia. And so he appointed a gal, Barbara LeVake, a few years ago, and people didn't want her because they already rejected her once from that office years before, and he appointed her back again. So a campaign ensued where Matt Conant and Liz Cervantes ran against Barbara LeVake. And a guy that's chief of staff for Gallagher, Curtis Grima, he began to insert himself. In fact, Gallagher told LeVake that Grima was going to run her campaign. And I thought, well, boy, that's interesting. He's chief of staff. What's he doing running campaigns? I thought it was very interesting. I just never, I'm novice. I was ignorant of it. And so I thought I'd never met the guy. So anyway, I talked about Curtis Grima last week, and he's related to some friends of mine, the Stevens Farmhouse, which I like. And so they were upset because last week I made a comment about his weight, the size of Curtis Grima. And I'm going to talk about it again today, and I'm going to frame it in a little differently because my intention wasn't to hurt his in-laws' feelings. But I've never met Curtis Grima. In fact, I don't know that I've met the rest of the family, the girls, the Stevenson girls, or even Sam Stevenson. But I've watched what Curtis Grima has done, and I mentioned something about his weight. And the reason I mentioned something about his weight, I took a poke at him, a fun poke. And nowadays you can't take a fun poke out at people, I guess, and offend family members. But because I've kind of made a hobby of studying nutrition, I know what weight will do to you, and it will kill you, right? It'll kill you soon. It'll give you a heart attack, cancer, diabetes. And so I think, even though Curtis and his wife are having little children, now they got 2 little children, I think I'll probably outlive Mr. Grima, not because I want to. I'm ready to go to heaven anytime. I'm ready anytime. But because, so I made a little poke at him. Hopefully he'll be, it will motivate him to think about that. It's a health issue. But I want to talk about the fact of, I am not bashful about hard-run campaigns or people that are serious about it. Like I have friends that are drug addicts, prostitutes, people that don't give a crap about politics, people that are of a different gender, different sex, sexual orientation. I have friends, all kinds of friends that I regard as true friends. That still doesn't take away my view of what I think is right. And I am not against people having a different opinion politically, or a different opinion on some people are for the casino and some people are against the casino, or this or that or the other thing. But what I don't like is people that trash other people and tell lies about them. So in the campaign of LeVake, Conant, and Cervantes, Matt Conant, who I've known from a distance for many years, and his family, is a salt-of-the-earth farmer, a good guy. Been on the Farm Bureau, done all kinds of things, served in our community. Not a political guy. He's just been a hardworking family man and a good man. And he was accused by Curtis Grima in that campaign of being anti-law enforcement. Now, I don't know many people. The only people I know that are really anti-law enforcement are Norteño and Sereno gang members and some white supremacist people and idiot juvenile delinquents. Most adults that are everyday people just trying to make life work are pro-law enforcement. And to say that about Matt was never true, and it shouldn't have ever been said, and he owes apology to Matt Conant. Now, the other thing he said was that Liz Cervantes, who for over 20 years, she and her husband Carl ran the Pop Warner Football League, which is no small task if you ever try to work with parents. I've coached before, so I've gone nose to nose with parents before. I get it. But to do something for 20 years like that, and then you tell them that they're pro-commercial grow marijuana, now that to me is a lie. I have a problem with that because James Gallagher's paying this guy $100,000 a year, plus and now he's double dipping and he's got his own business on the side. I'm wondering, when is he working for the public and when is he working for somebody else telling lies about people? And is James lying about people? James has kind of got a pass in this community as a good boy because his dad and granddaddy were noted as pretty nice guys. So now Curtis Grima is running all these campaigns and is involved in the Amanda Hopper for district attorney campaign. And that office has been in an uproar since she took over 4 years ago. And it was sad because I said, I think last week that I voted for her, but I didn't because I can't vote in that county. But I did put her on my loose picks. And actually, her opponent was, to me, just as good as her, Dupre. But my friends bent my arm and said, hey, we're all voting for Amanda. We think she's a better candidate, da-da-da-da. Anyway, long story. I don't want to get in the weeds on it, but I like Jennifer Dupre. But anyway, Amanda won fair and square, so she won it. But it's been a mess. She has not she had not done a good job. And so this opponent of hers, Chris Carlos, Curtis Grima keeps saying that, for one thing, he makes a big deal about him being a Democrat. Now, I want you to think this through. Like Pat McGrath over in Yuba County, I never ever thought to ask Pat, the district attorney, whether he was a Democrat or a Republican. In fact, I'm not sure that I know what he is today. I really don't care. And his prosecutors that work for him, I don't care what they are either. What I care about is I don't want any drama. Just do your damn job. Quit getting sued, go out and do your job and prosecute people, or no, don't prosecute them and send them home innocent, drop the charges, whatever. Just do your job. And Pat McGrath and his crew have done a stellar performance for a decade or so. And it's been a disaster on the other side of the river with Amanda Hopper. So Chris Carlos now is being compared to Kamala Harris and somebody else. I don't know, all these Democrats, Sharpton or something. Honestly, it's so disingenuous. And then they say that he's for sanctuary cities. Now, honestly, I want you to tell me what a district attorney has to do with the sanctuary city. District attorney prosecutes crimes that are brought before them. If you want to say the sheriff is for sanctuary cities, then that's got some pop to it because they are dealing with illegal immigrants. If you want to say the city council or the supervisors for having a sanctuary county or city, then you got something going for you. But to say the district attorney who takes an oath of office to uphold the Constitution and enforce the law, the current law of the land, he has to or she has to enforce that. Now, the sheriff can say, as the sheriff candidates have said, hey, we can tell immigration when we're going to release an illegal immigrant after they serve their time or they're going to go out on bail or whatever so they can pick them up. But the DA doesn't have it. Come on, people, look at your constitutional offices. It's a straw man argument. In other words, it's an argument about nothing that sounds like something. And what it is, Curtis Grima is running this campaign, those are lies. Now, it's a problem because if a district attorney is going to allow people to lie in her campaign, on her advertisements, on Facebook posts, etc., 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 then she will lie in office. Listen, I don't buy this thing. If you cheat on your spouse, you're going to cheat in business. If you lie over here, you're going to lie over there. You're not going to compartmentalize. So when people say, oh, well, that's just campaigning. No, it isn't campaigning. You're either honest or you're a liar. And so to continue to make accusations about Carlos that he's this and that, and so what if he is a Democrat? What if he's an honest Democrat? Say you're a Republican, and a guy's an honest Democrat who really knows the law, and he will be a hard-nosed prosecutor and really be a good manager of his office, and the other person isn't, who would you vote for? Are you saying you would vote? Are you so stuck in your categories that you'd vote for an incompetent operator or dishonest person? Like I saw a photo the other day. Somebody sent me this photo. Maybe it was a joke that she was doing of Amanda Hopper flipping somebody off. I thought, you know something? I wish the district attorney wouldn't do that. You just hope that the district attorney would have a sense of decorum. But my main thing is that when people get these things and they don't know what the truth is, and most people don't have the time or take the time, or they don't know how to get to the bottom of stuff, it's very unfortunate. But when I brought up the issue of Curtis Grima is in the business of running campaigns. And that's fine. Hey, you can be in all kinds. Some people pump septic tanks for a living. Some people chop trees down. Some people wire, and some people fix my computer. Some people run political campaigns. That doesn't mean you have to be dishonest with a lack of integrity and be dirty about it. And that's what's going on here. And that was what I was getting at last week, that he's a bully and he's threatening people. And people, and he was getting away with it. And so people like Al Montana, who is a landowner and rice grower, farmer in this area, but he's been successful. Good for him. I'm happy for him. But these people, because they get a lot of money, they think they can control things and push people around. When Al Montana drops dead, he's gonna go into the everlasting with everybody else, poor or rich, and ain't gonna be no political groups, and only the character is gonna pass through the veil. You and your character, whatever that is. And so when people are coming around threatening people and telling people, we're going to come and get you, we're going to get you, we're going to run you out of this committee, and send emails out like we need to run this. You know, it's amazing. In this country, we work pretty hard at trying to get people to volunteer and be on committees and commissions and political committees. And then you have people that work for assemblymen that get more than 2 or 3 or 4 people earn in Yuba County in a year. And they come down here and tell people you can't serve, or we don't want you, or get off, or try to force people off. You know, the Gallagher and Nielsen group in La Malfa, they were going county to county trying to take over central committees, Republican central committees, so they could tell them what to do and how to vote and control who was running for office. People, if that's what you like as a Republican, I'm not in that party with you. That's wrong. Whether that's Democrat, whether Republican, that is wrong. I don't want to be a part of that, whatever label you want to put on it. That's being a bully. That's some sort of a mafia operation. That is not what I want to be about at all. That is not America to me. And so that's what's going on in these campaigns locally here, where now if people want to put out, like I've been getting stuff in the mail, it's just totally a lie because I know some of these people. Now, I don't know Carlos personally, but I know his stance on what I just shared with you, that he's running for Sutter County DA. And the rest of these people, I know them. I know all the sheriff's candidates on Yuba and Sutter counties. I know many of the other people. But what I am not into is people manipulating the system to benefit their friends and cutting people deals. Now, we've had a history in this Sutter County District Attorney that they have been doing deals to benefit their friends for campaign contributions. In fact, there's some indication that even some of the hotels in Yuba City that are welcoming prostitution are also donating to Amanda Hopper's campaign. And when some of the law enforcement wanted to go after them, they said, stand down. Don't go after them. And they donated to the Hopper campaign. That is not helping our community, folks. That is not. To pick and choose who your dirtbags are, which is a common term used for people that are in trouble, I don't like the term myself. My experience working with church for many years is like I had a guy saying to me, I was getting a checkup over at the heart place one time, and he said, what do you do? I said, I work with a lot of people coming out of jail and prison. He said, that's a waste of time. I said, what do you mean? He said, bad seed. And I said, I'm sorry you feel that way. I haven't had that experience myself. I've seen a lot of people totally change their life. So, in fact, I said some of my best friends have killed people. And he just stared at me. I said, I'm sorry if you've had some bad experiences, but I see a lot of amazing changes in people. What I don't like is people that are in authority slam people that have a drug or alcohol problem and then cut a deal because people are wealthy and they're dishonest, or they want a deal to go their way in the community, and so they cut them a deal, and they see that as somehow more honorable than sending a guy to jail that's got an addiction issue and keeps stealing from houses. I think people ought to pay. You do the crime, you do the time, right? But let's have everybody follow the rules, right? Even people with money. And they don't get a special change on zoning so they can get their building and be a marijuana facility, right? Let's be fair about it. Well, we're coming to the end of our second hour. We're pre-recording this, so if you call in, you're going to get the Big Kahuna recording. So, but this is fresh. This isn't a rerun. We'll be back for one more hour. Well, we're into our third hour here, and as I mentioned earlier a couple times, we are pre-recorded, so we can't take any live calls today. But it is fresh, live with Lou. We're not doing a warm-over. So, I've been really fascinated about, as soon as Trump came into office, there's been one investigation. It's so easy to investigate people and to bring people before a committee and run them through the ringer, and you have all these special investigators and people uncovering things. But it's fascinating when you think back to the Obama years. Or did you remember this Cohen, the attorney for President Trump? They just went over and busted into his house and picked up all his stuff, his computers and boxes of files, and Manafort and all these people that they just go and raid their houses, right? Raid their offices. But to this day, Eric Holder, former Attorney General, never been raided. Hillary Clinton, illegal emails, tens of thousands, lied before Congress. Loretta Lynch lied. Special meeting with Bill Clinton on a tarmac down in Arizona. No investigation. John and Tony Podesta. Tony Podesta involved in some kind of pedophilia and stuff. No investigation. Donna Brazile, who stole the questions on the debate between Clinton and Trump to give Clinton an edge in the debate. Isn't that amazing? Isn't it? I mean, Democrats can do this, not a problem. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who the whole primary was contrived against in the Clinton primaries, just sad. It was a total rigged primary. The Awan brothers, you know, the three Pakistani men that supposedly are IT guys that had the classified access to 40 or 50 Democrats and ripped off money and totally are corrupt. On and on and on. Just Susan Rice. Do you remember when Susan Rice lied on 5 shows in one day that somehow the Benghazi attack was all about a little trailer to a video? Uma Abedin, who's connected to Hamas. Do you remember all the Muslims that used to work in the Obama White House? Do you forget that? Uma Abedin and her pervert husband and them transferring classified files. You remember New York City Police Department wanted to make arrests because of what was on Anthony Weiner's. If Weiner and Holder were on a ticket together, it'd be Weiner Holder. Is that a freaky thing right there? The Weiner Holder team. Uma Abedin, they wanted to start making arrests, and the State Department put the kibosh on it, and they never have followed through. Do you ever remember anybody doing with all the stuff with Harvey Weinstein, all the women he assaulted? Do you ever remember them doing any raids, FBI things on him? Isn't that amazing? Just kind of an amazing thing, right? Well, on the election, don't just vote for somebody because you like him or they're your friend or he's a really nice guy. The guy could be a total. I met a lot of nice people. Like I've had a number of. Oh, here's the one I wanted to share that I had I'm getting old and things just come to pass in my mind. I wanted to say to you that of all the local fire departments, on this thing with Gary Bradford doing this Mickey Mouse end run on cheating Wheatland Fire Department out of the casino being in their jurisdiction and them having the coverage. So you have Wheatland Fire Department, then you have Oliver's Fire Department, you have Linda Fire Department, and you have Marysville Fire Department, and then you have like Yuba City Fire Department, right? Then you have a lot of foothill fire departments. I'm talking about, for all you out in these other counties, I'm talking about Yuba and Sutter County. I'm just going to give a comparison here. In my days, I've been involved in emergency response for 23 years, I think. 24, 25 years. 25 years. And during those 25 years, the Marysville's fire departments had 3 or 4 chiefs, right? And the Yuba City Fire Department has had 3 chiefs. And the Linda Fire Department has had 2 chiefs. I have lost count how many chiefs the Olivehurst Public Utility District Fire Department has had. And they didn't die, thank God. They either quit under duress from not liking working with OPUD, or they were fired. Now, that's a bad sign, folks. Now, I don't know, since Wheatland's had a few. Like Joe Wagerhauser, I was just told today, Joe retired. And Joe's been around here for many years. Great firefighter. And now Art Paquette's taken over. So they've had a handful. But they've usually, the change has come because of retirement. That's different than if people get canned or they leave under pressure. So here we have, there's been a discussion among the different fire departments or among politicians that OPUD doesn't have the ability to properly oversee a fire department. I don't know what else they do with their lives, but they don't have the beef to run. They don't know jack diddly what they're doing with a fire department anyway. They're incompetent. Let's just say it that way. So they burn through chiefs. That's not a good sign. So I'm going to quit that and leave it with you. If you want to do something about it out there, make a big deal about it. Yuba County, put up or shut up, as they say. So let's see. What do I want to talk about? Ahora, as they say down south of the border. Let's see. I wanted to talk a little bit about, so much of the stuff is politicized, all the stuff that's going on, anything that Trump does, if he's successful. You know, they always make excuses. Oh, that was all, give credit to Obama for the stock market going through the roof. Give credit to Obama because now we're at the lowest black unemployment ever recorded, right? And a lot of it's just this political posturing and jesting, right? But the fact is, these statistics and these political changes affect real people. People that didn't have a job, people that couldn't take care of their children on their own. It's a huge thing. Or people that are, they have the ability to put their kids through college now. It's a huge thing. People going to work that used to have great jobs and then they've been patching together, like the whole coal industry. When Obama shut down the coal industry, like 100,000 people lost their jobs. Guys that their whole career was in the coal business. Those are real people that are suffering, that were suffering. So when this whole talk about all the focus on Rocket Man, and the fact is, I know something about North Korea. I do a lot of work in North and South Vietnam. There's one Vietnam now, but it's intense over there. In fact, I just got a Viber while we were listening to that music, and on a project I got going over there, and it's a gnarly email. And it's a communist country, and Laos is a communist country, and China is a communist, and it's very, very difficult for people. They suffer there. Americans don't have a clue. And yet they banter on these deals about, oh, you don't know anything about North Korea. You ought to read, just pick 2 or 3 books written by people that have escaped that country. I'm telling you, it'll scare the hell out of you. It'll sober you up and make you feel like, I don't know whether you got any money or stuff or not, or own a house, but it'll make you feel real bad for not being more appreciative of what you got. I want to just share some things about North Korea. I have a friend that died a couple of years ago. He's a young guy, but he got cancer and died. And he worked for Voice of the Martyrs, and he was working with the underground church in Korea. In Korea, if they caught you with the Bible, they just kill you. You think, oh, Lou, you don't know what you're talking about. No, you don't know what you're talking about, so get a clue. They would starve you to death. They would torture you. They would shoot you with a rocket, not just a gun sometimes. They would just do, things that are unmentionable in the air. But the South Korean people, there's a very strong Christian movement in South Korea and a lot of prayer. In fact, did you know, I don't know if you know, Wiki, that Jess Parker was just over there. He went from Cambodia to Korea to go to Prayer Mountain. They've been praying over there. And they've been praying in South Korea specifically that there would be a peace summit. Did you know that? Yeah. So all this stuff like, oh, well, Trump made it happen. And yeah, Trump and Pompeo, yeah, they were doing something. But behind it were millions of Christians in South Korea and in other parts of the world praying that God would do something. And they've been fasting and praying. For you that don't do this church thing, that's going without food and sometimes without food and water for days at a time. So pastors held an all-night vigil in the city of Paju, P-A-J-U, south of the North Korean border. And a group of Christian politicians held a fasting. These are Christian politicians in South Korea, held a fasting and prayer event in the National Assembly building in Seoul. That's in the political building. North Korea's persecuted Christians have been praying for this moment for many years. They have been, there's no words, I can say they've been horribly persecuted. That doesn't cover it. They've been starved to death, beaten, whipped, cattle prodded. I honestly, I got books if you want to read them. Defectors say something began to change when Jong-un Kim became a dictator in 2011. He said his cruel regime, along with the misery of famine and economic ruin, caused people to become disillusioned. They were supposed to worship the dictator, Kim. He promised them utopia. You know, that's what the Democrats promise here in this country. So about 6 million citizens are starving, and a third of North Korean children suffer from chronic malnutrition. It's said that North Koreans are on average 2 inches shorter than South Koreans because of nutrition problems. I want you to think about that for a minute. Same people. Some of them, a lot of them are actually related, but they're separated because of this political conflict. And some of them, because of generations of malnutrition, are 2 inches shorter and on average. Most people in North Korea do not have electricity. If you fly over, you've seen these satellite shots. South Korea is all lit up. North Korea is dark. They do not have the internet or access to news from the outside world. The average person. In the Soviet Union, they used to tell them all kinds of things when I was a kid. I remember reading this. In fact, when I went to Sac State, I studied Soviet socialist culture. I took a class on it. I was fascinated by it. But they used to tell the people in the Soviet Union that we were suffering in this country and we didn't have any freedom and all this stuff. So it was about the same as over there. But they had no idea because everything was controlled. They didn't have access. There was no internet, right? No TV. North Korean democracy is a farce. People vote in elections where only one name is on the ballot. In Korea, North Korea, if someone in the family is convicted of a crime, say the dad, he does not go to jail alone. His kids and his grandchildren, the whole family is imprisoned. Somewhere between 10 to 45% of all people in prison in North Korea are Christian people. There's a very high percentage of incarcerated people in China that are also Christian or people that believe in the Falun Gong way. It's a kind of a Buddhist, Tai Chi mixture of belief systems that's been very popular in China. So if you need an organ like a liver or a kidney or a heart or lungs, you can order one in China. You could fly there, order one, and they will pick a prisoner to match up with you, DNA. They will shoot him, and they will take his part out and sell it to you and operate on you and send you back home in good shape and tell his relatives that he got a disease and died in prison. That happens. If you doubt me, just pick up the book called The Slaughter. The Slaughter. Please read it before you think trash about what I'm saying. So, some defectors have reported that North Korean officials are worried that Christianity will defeat the state-sponsored worship of Kim and his ancestors. You know, Asians, they're really into ancestor worship. It's part of their belief system. Until they get converted, there's still a respect for their ancestors, which is fine. But until they're converted. One State Department report suggests that Christian population in North Korea multiplied 5 times under this kind of persecution from 2012 to 2017. There's some estimates of maybe 400 to 500,000 followers of Christ in that country. So this, what's gone on in Korea, you may argue, oh, Trump's stupid. No, he's brilliant. No, he's this. No, he's that. Pompeo. You know, people are working. Humans, if you believe in the supernatural, if you don't believe, you think we all evolved, then you're not in on this. So just die and compost a tree. Have at it. But if you believe in the supernatural, what you're seeing right now in North and South Korea is a miracle. My friend Mark Ulbrich, who died about a year and a half ago of cancer, he worked with the underground church in Korea. And you think, well, Lou, what did he do? What they used to do a lot of is used sort of like a helium balloon, and they used to attach literature to it, and it would be timed so they would look at how fast the wind was blowing, and they'd know how far the balloon would go, so it'd go over an inhabited area, and then the balloon would burst, or it would lose its helium or whatever was in there. And it would drop literature. And they would also, as people would escape, there's a river along the border of North Korea and China, so people would try to cross the river and often be shot and killed trying to leave the country. You can't leave the country. You don't get permission to leave. You get killed. So, but people would eventually find a way, or there are what we call coyotes that are Mexican smugglers that bring people across. You pay them to bring you across in the U.S. There were smugglers that were making a living. They figured out a way, or they paid off the guards, and they would smuggle people out of Korea. And so often they were getting paid by the Koreans, but then on the other side, whoever was receiving them in China would induct the women into the slave trade, the sex trade. And so my friend Mark were getting those women and keeping them safely and getting them back down out of China into South Korea. There's also people like Dave and Mary Rowe, R-O-H. Rowe is a common Korean name. They are Orange County doctors. One's a kidney doctor and one's a gynecologist. And I talked to them on the phone, and they have been going to North Korea for years training North Korean doctors because they don't have access to the latest medical techniques. So it was the Rose are Christians. They're involved in a Christian mission, or Korean missionary operation out of the U.S. They sold their practice in Orange County, and they've been involved in trying to set up a new hospital over there as long as they could run it and have free passage around the country. In other words, they wouldn't be restricted on where they would go. There's a lot of Christian people in this country, a lot of Korean Christians that are working, trying to help in North Korea. And the connection has been through the lady they made the Western media, the liberal media made a big stink about, or made how they loved her during the Olympics, a sister to Jong-un. And they made a connection with her, and she's been opening some doors to Christian relief, like Dave and Mary Rowe their group set up a noodle factory, where a big operation manufacturing noodles and employing their people, and brought in equipment to help feed the people that were starving. So churches in South Korea, there are millions of Christians, very strong churches in South Korea, are ready to freely send teams into the North Korea with food, medicine, and compassion for the people in the North. So I think that we're going to see a tremendous miracle. You know, that it's sad that the secular media is so blind, and they're embarrassingly idiotic. They just make a fool of themselves, when what's really going on is a massive humanitarian rescue that God's pulling off in Korea. It's pretty fantastic, actually. So these three guys, a couple of them taught at Pyongyang University of Science and Technology, and the other one, all three of them were very strong Christians. In fact, one of them wrote this passage out of Psalm 126. You can look it up if you like and read it. And it's a psalm written when the Israelites were being held hostage in a foreign country and being oppressed, and how they all of a sudden they got excited because they were going to be set free. So anyway, one of the Christian Koreans handed this scripture reference to, actually he wrote the actual portion of scripture he wanted him to read. He wrote it out on a piece of paper and gave it to Mike Pence, vice president. So I guess, are we going to take a break? Time? Okay. We're going to go to a break and then we'll finish up. We got a half hour to go. You're listening to Live with Lou. And if you're listening, we're happy. And if you're not listening, we're happy too.
Creative Light Theater's Radio City Presents Job is a dinner theater coming May 20th through 25th. It's 1939, and radio is America's premier source of entertainment. Rodney Havershak hosts a nightly show retelling historic events, dramatized for the listener's imagination. Actors from all over Hollywood are invited to showcase their talents in retelling these stories. Harry Flowers, an Oscar-winning leading man, has been hired to play Job. His own fairy tale life seems to unravel before our very eyes as life imitates art in this hour-long recap of what happened to Job. With music and zany sound effects, this tragedy can't help but tickle the funny bone of our studio audience. Don't miss Radio City Presents Job at the beautiful Embassy Theater located at Highway 99 and Eager Road in Yuba City. Tickets are $22 each, or $200 for a table of 10. Call the Church of Glad Tidings for tickets and more information. 671-3160.
Check out the Territorial Dispatch. Papers are weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's the only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch, which features local news and events for the Yuba Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
All right. You're listening to Live with Lou. This is the Patriot, 1410 AM. We're out here in Mount Huth. I don't think I told you that. You may not even care. We're up here on Mount Huth and out in eastern Linda, Yuba County. That's up in what we're hoping to be one day the state of Jefferson. Wouldn't that be great? This is a little conversation about liberal logic. He says, I'll run over and pick up both our welfare checks, then drop by the university to see what's holding up our federal education grants. You go by the free clinic for a pregnancy test. If it's positive, fill out the paperwork for government assistance, baby bonus, and WIC. Oh, recharge our food stamp cards and pick up my free glasses. Let's meet back at noon at the State House for the mass picketing against the greedy Republicans who want us to go get jobs. You know, a lot of times as conservatives, we don't like welfare, right? And if you want to read a great book that will educate you about welfare and about how we destroyed families through welfare, it's called now I forget what the name of it is. American, I'll think of it in a second. But it's written by Marvin Olasky. The American, let's see, something about American compassion. Marvin Olasky. Can you look it up? Okay. So I want to just comment a bit about how we have a double standard in America amongst conservatives about welfare. I am not interested in welfare. I think it destroys families. It destroys people's incentives and initiative and self-esteem. It's an embarrassing thing, and it's a bad way to help people get back on their feet. What it does is we created a huge industry of white-collar welfare that we've taken people, the tragedy of American compassion. There it is. It just takes a while. You know, it's because I did too many drugs. Sometimes just slow to come around. We were saying it at the same time. So what's happened is that we've actually destroyed people. If you feed a bear all the time, pretty soon he won't want to go forage for himself. That's exactly what happens. So, but what we have this double standard among Republicans and conservatives, how we look at negatively on somebody collecting welfare, but we give subsidies to rich farmers, and we don't think that's inconsistent. So when I don't know whether you know this or not, but the food stamps, which set, everything bad set a record under Obama, and everything that's good is setting a record under Trump. So food stamps went up to like 47 or 49 million people under Obama. It was like 3 or 4 times what it was just 10 years before. And so people threw a fit, right? So, and that's all paid for under the Farm Bill. Now, you'd think it'd be paid, food stamps would come out of health and welfare, but it's not, because it's food. It's under the Farm Bill for some reason. So, according to the Department of Agriculture, large family farms received 32% of commodity payments. You remember commodities before they did EBT cards? You could actually get cheese and lard, flour, sugar. You could get these commodities, peanuts, cans of peanuts, right? So according to the United States Department of Agriculture, large family farms received 32% of commodity payments and 34% of crop insurance indemnities in 2016. They had that 32% had a household income of $347,000, and they're getting subsidy payments from the U.S. government, and their household income was already $347,000, or about 6 times the median income for all U.S. households, the average U.S. household. And the median household net worth of those farms was $3.8 million. Now, I understand a farm has a commitment, has property, so certainly they're going to have wealth, because you can't run a business without wealth, right? But should they get money from the taxpayers? Government has nothing of its own. It takes money from taxpayers and it redistributes. It's called socialism. With farmers, it's called the reverse Robin Hood effect, and it's getting worse. For example, this report says in 1991, half of commodities, this is like checks being sent to wealthy farmers. Half of commodity program payments went to farms operated by households with incomes over $60,000 in 1991. However, in 2015, 24 years later, half went to households with incomes over $146,000. Now, why? Why are we giving farmers money? Why is that any different than having a parts store or having a janitorial business or a painting business? Why don't we subsidize those businesses? So fiscal conservatives should support getting rid of direct payment programs to farmers or subsidies to farmers regardless of need. So we have all kinds to protect agriculture from risk, price loss coverage, that they don't get the price. Why do we do that? We don't do that for people that sell washing machines or paving companies. We have a cost overrun of $13 billion in these programs. So it says the biggest waste in this report says is providing multiple payments to agricultural producers, which are generally the largest producers for the same losses. It's bad enough, it says, that some producers receive subsidies to help them compete in the marketplace, unlike most farmers. But it is inexcusable that they should receive multiple price revenue payments, such as through the agriculture risk coverage and price loss. You ever heard of the concept, if you don't, they'll tell you not to grow a crop and they pay you? Do you know that most of agriculture doesn't get any subsidy? Then why should some? I had a list of the products that they get subsidies for, and I can't see it right here. Wheat gets it. Soybeans gets it. I'm just going from memory. It isn't, you know, the government tells how much of a commodity that can be sold. Is that odd to you? That's communism. Nor is it conservative to try to restrict supply to intentionally drive up prices. Do you know that's exactly, since the late 1700s, we have been doing that with sugar, of all things. That's how much people are into sugar. We've been propping up the sugar prices. We could bring in sugar so cheap from Cuba, or cane sugar from Cuba, or South America, other countries. No wonder candy makers have moved out of the country. Farm subsidy proponents claim that agriculture is unique and therefore needs assistance to compete like other businesses. Isn't that something? However, they fail to explain why almost the entire agriculture economy does not get any of these subsidies. They just a handful of them do. Handful of, here's my list. Here's the ones that get it. 94% of farm program support goes to 6 commodities: corn, cotton, peanuts, rice, hello, Yuba Sutter, rice, soybeans, and wheat. In other words, almost all commodities beyond those get hardly any assistance. Like you think of all things, tomatoes, peaches, prunes, da-da-da-da, right? Now, it caught my eye here, this rice thing, because I've been talking over the last few weeks about the pumpers of Yuba County. The pumpers who in a month can make $164,000 by simply pumping water. That's all they do. Pump it out on their ground, and they get a check from Yuba County Water Agency. And you know something? They don't want to share that. Now, isn't this interesting how these farmers of corn, cotton, peanuts, rice, soybeans, wheat think that even though they go out and work, that somehow our tax dollars that are taken by force by the government should then be given to them to give them more money, even though they already got a lot of money. And it's interesting to me how the farmers, the rice farmers, or the farmers that are growing something else, that are now called the pumpers, and pumping Bullards Bar Dam water, at one time made their living on their farms and didn't make any money off peddling water. But now they somehow are tapping into all of our money, which is our water. I think state law says the water belongs to the people, not to the water agency. You know, they kind of speak with forked tongues since we're talking about Indian stuff today. We started out talking about the casino. So the water agency talks with forked tongue. One day they say, well, the water belongs to the water agency. Well, but the water agency is actually Yuba County. Okay, what is Yuba County? Is it the dirt or is it the people? Who has a claim to anything? It's people. If all the people were dead, maybe there'd be a county boundary, but you wouldn't have to govern it, right? There's nothing to manage. Since people are here, you manage it. I'll give you an example. For every 70 people, there's one Yuba County employee. Isn't that amazing? One Yuba County employee for every 70 people. It's crazy. So what's happening is the Yuba County Water Agency doesn't want those pumpers to share the benefits of that dam that all the people of Yuba County took a risk to put up there. Now, in hindsight, they say, oh, there was no risk. Oh, to hell with you people. You don't know it's just hindsight. When you're going forward and you're thinking, oh, we got to come up with all these hundreds of millions of dollars and float it out on a bond and pay it off over 50 years, those people just came, that was in late 1950s, they were debating that. And those same people just got out of the Depression and a World War II. That scared the hell out of them. You just want to do revisionist history. And so the same thing where the farmers, because they have the money and the lobbyists to lobby congressmen and pay them off, they get money on top of selling their products. And you remember Ben Sasse from Nebraska? Oh, we don't want all those tariffs, right? There's already 10,000 tariffs. His people, his Nebraska farmers are already getting all kinds of subsidies. So are our rice farmers in the valley here. And they whine about all these transients people, all these people on welfare and food stamps, right? It's like, hey, why don't you lighten the load and give me back my tax dollars, dude? I don't want to subsidize your rice. And I don't want to subsidize some pumper $164,000 a month or $50,000 a month. Hey, forget you. I don't necessarily need the money. I just don't want to pay any taxes. And you're getting money that we all should benefit from. That's what that's about. It's wrong. You know, conservatives, no wonder you get hammered as hypocrites, because you see rich conservatives running around and they got their hand in the till. I thought conservatism was, hey, we don't need any government help. We don't want government in our business. We don't want government telling me how long I got to be open and when I got to pay overtime and how much money I got to pay people and what minimum wage is and telling me what wages to pay and how much insurance I got to have and how many tailgate safety discussions I need to have, and right? And all that stuff. You don't want government to tell you all that stuff. You don't want government, except when there's money out there, everybody lines up. They say, we want to get our hand in the till, right? Then you shouldn't whine about all these people getting a handout for sitting around watching television all day. Think about it. We got a chance to change that up with Trump. Just like this drug thing, I got a kick out of him. When I go to Vietnam, those things they call Z-Packs. You take them and you get a sinus infection or antibiotics, right? So they cost you, I don't know, but $35, a little Z-Pack. I can get it for $2 in Vietnam. I bring a stack of them back. I just give them out as just gifts. Hey, have a Z-Pack, right? I don't know. Is that dealing drugs? I don't know. Can you do that? I don't know. You don't even have to get a prescription. I just go to the pharmacy over there. If I get an infection in my eye in Vietnam once in a while. I don't know what the deal is. Get something in my eye. I don't know what it is. I just go to the pharmacist. I said, check my eye out, dude. He says, I got you. Gives me a little bottle. Pay him a couple dollars. Fixes it. No doctor. None of that jacking around, right? And so they say, if I want a Z-Pack, they say, you want American brand or do you want the Vietnam same? I said, give me, he said, it costs me almost the same price because they got to buy it from over here, right? Some Pfizer. So I said, no, give me the Vietnamese dude. He said, $2, right? And I just get a whole stack of them, bring them back, right? I said, give me a dozen of those dudes, right? Give me a dozen packs. Here's the deal. You know why drugs are so high? Because all the government regulations. Because they're telling, did you hear them on the radio today or on television, on Facebook? They're telling how they forbid them to tell the prices to the customer. They tell them, a doctor will tell you, oh, well, why don't you get this? Well, he won't tell you. They're forbidden to tell the price on these drugs because some of them are $1,000 and some of them $50. And you can get a generic deal, right? So there's all these rules that government has come up with. Why did government do that? Because the drug companies have lobbyists who are protecting the amount of money. Do you remember that little that pen thing? The pen thing. You remember the pen thing? Where if you had a reaction to a bee sting, had epinephrine in it, and you just stick yourself with it and it'd fix you. And what were they charging? $600? But a paramedic came up with a way to do that. He could go buy the chemical, and then he figured out how to inject it, $5, right? But it was all about just jacking things up. Now, if there was a competitor, if there was open competition, then you wouldn't have that. But the government has facilitated protecting, just like Obamacare. Obamacare got all the pharmaceutical companies to support Obamacare because he guaranteed them those egregious rates. That's socialism. It's just all a managed economy, a planned economy. So eventually, if you let them do the bread, I don't know whether you like bread or not. I like it. I just don't eat it because I don't want to be fat. Eat a lot of bread, right? I love bread. I love pastries. But if you want bread at $10 a loaf, that's what you get. If $20 a loaf, that's what you get if government's running. Or you don't have enough loaves. You go to the bread. Do you ever go down the bread aisle? The whole aisle's bread. It's a huge aisle. Everybody loves bread. You go to a bread aisle in the Soviet Union or Venezuela, there's nothing left. But in the Soviet Union, one bread. You say, hey, do you have any rice? Hey, one bread. We got this bread. Take it or leave it, you jerk, right? Sock you, right? Do you? So it's a total ripoff. So anyway, I think we're coming to the end here. Listen, parting thoughts. Oh, shoot. I forgot totally about pitching my Tea Party guys. I got going here and just blew right through this tonight. We got a Tea Party event coming up. And what is it? I totally missed this. Let's see. Hold on here. All right. I got it. So, the next one is the district attorney, and Amanda Hopper has refused to come. So, it's going to be Chris Carlos, and that's coming up on the 21st of May at the Church of Glad Tidings, and it will be at 6:30. And you can ask him all the questions you want. Starts at 6:30. You can get there at 6. And please go to it. Building 200, 1179 Eager Road, and you'll be good to go. I also want to say that one of our sponsors makes it possible for be here is Elite Universal Security. And I tell you every week now, and there's people starting to go over there and get jobs. They got jobs. If you want to be in the security business, you can get a job in Chico area, all the way up in Redding, Yuba Sutter, lots of jobs. Or if you want to get your handgun, go on their website at eliteuniversalsecurity.com, and they will hook you up with, if you need a gun permit, if you need training to get your permit, concealed weapon permit, you can call them up at 749-0280. They also have courses coming up you can look up on api-academy.com and look on calendar, and then they have courses that you can take out there, or some courses you can actually take online to get your guard certificate. But the gun courses, you need to go actually out there and take them. But they have a course coming up here in late May that you can get in on. Hold up. I think I'll give you the date right here. It's in another week or so you can check that out. Hold on here. Let me see if I can pull it up here. May 26 and 27. Okay? They want a full-time patrol officer, armed officer, part-time officers. Come on, man. They got jobs out there. Elite Universal Security. Catch you next week. If you run into somebody that you don't know, treat them right because they might be an angel unaware.